I got the list of parts that I'm going to be putting in the bike. I figured I'd do a little bit of a video of what I'm putting in here and update you guys. How's it going, everybody? Last time in my last video, I updated you guys on what was happening with my Road Glide. I was going to go in and put a new camshaft in. I was putting an S&S 465, pretty much a whole camshaft kit, and that ended up turning into a little bit of a disaster.
I'm sorry, I broke it in your toy.
I've got the bike to the shop, the local shop. I'm working with Wilkins Harley Davidson. They are by far one of the best dealerships I've dealt with. They do a great job in their maintenance. Dan is one of their master techs. He's the one doing the work on my bike. I've dealt with him before. He's doing it from start to finish. He's the one that was able to receive all the parts at the shop. He's got it torn apart, and he's going to bring it all the way to the dyno tune at the end. And I'll share the numbers with you guys when we're done too. But they do a great job down there. Their shop rate is very reasonable. A lot of shops I've been to, I mean, all the way down to Tennessee, you know, I've stopped into dealerships, and I feel like Wilkins is one of the best. So if you're in Vermont and you're in need of a dealership, parts and accessories, or a little bit of a tune-up, or you run into a mishap around here, they're definitely a good number to have. I'm not being sponsored by them in any way. I've just had really good luck with them. And I got the list of parts that I'm going to be putting in the bike. I figured I'd do a little bit of a video of what I'm putting in here and update you guys. The bike's at the shop right now, and I've got a video of them loading it into the truck, which is a little scary.
Yep, we're good, thanks.
The parts that I'm going to be putting in this thing, I made a list here. It's going to be S&S 124 cylinders, and then I'm getting Wiseco forged pistons. And those pistons are a little bit more rugged because they're forged, and hopefully they'll last quite a while. And those are going to be made to fit together. Those are coming from Fuel Moto. I've also got pretty much the rest of my stuff is S&S. So I got S&S head bolt kit. I got the rocker arm stud kit, which helps kind of reduce your wear a little bit on your rocker arms. I saw a little bit when I was in there, kind of just normal wear. It didn't look anything crazy, but I figured just beef it up a little bit never hurts. So I was going to try that. I'm putting in the S&S oil pump and cam plate, which I'm really looking forward to seeing how that changes, how the engine feels. Of course, I'm doing a lot of other things at the same time, so it's not a great test on that. But I'm sure it will be able to keep it cooler and do a good job there. I'm doing S&S lifters as well as their tappet cuffs, and like I said earlier, the 465 cam. So the 465 cam is considered a low lift cam, so I won't need to change the valve springs in the heads, which also means this build, the way it's set up, is a lower compression. So a lot of these kits that you're seeing for 124s, 128s, they're all 11-to-1 compression. So this is going to be 10 3/4 to 1. And with that cam, it's a torque cam, so everything's going to be down low. Fuel Moto, I've been talking to, getting a lot of the parts from. They're suspecting somewhere around 130 to 140 foot-pounds of torque. That's my guess, but we'll see when we get it on the dyno. We'll see how it turns out. I ended up putting a Andrews pinion gear in this, since the one that Harley puts in it from the factory is a little bit loose. They put some slop in there, so for more accurate timing, I wanted to get a different pinion gear in there. I'm also doing the fueling vented dipstick, so I'll let you guys know how that kind of works out. Also did the Jackpot 2-into-1 into 2 head pipe. I really like the look of the Road Glide with the dual tailpipes coming out. I mean, I feel like it just looks balanced, it looks nice. I also want to build this like a sleeper. So I also ended up putting S&S Grand National slip-ons, hoping that those will be fairly quiet, but still be able to get decent performance out of them. That's why I went with those. I did the S&S Stealth Air Cleaner, and for clutch, I got the AIM SDR variable pressure clutch plate. So, and I got the heavy springs with that. So that should be able to provide about 150 foot-pounds of torque I should be able to handle. and that they say the max is about 4,000 RPM is where you get your max clamping pressure. So for what numbers I'm going to be putting out with this, that should work just fine. And being variable, that means when I'm stop and go traffic, I'm not going to have a super high amount of clutch pull and wear my hand out. Because I'm putting the heavier springs in, it is going to be a little bit heavier than stock, but it won't really grip until you start getting the RPMs up there, which is when you're producing your power. So that's what you want. I'm going to put the Thundermax oil cooler fan in there. I talked to Fuel Moto about this, kind of whether they recommend something like this because of getting so much more performance. They said they don't get any troubles with heat with this engine, but it never hurts to put in a fan. I just figured, you know what, might as well do it. I want to keep this engine for a long time. I want to keep it healthy, and I know the cooler I keep it, the better. So I just ended up getting that for it, and then I'm going to end up tuning it with the TTS Master Tune. I was looking at the Power Vision. That's what Fuel Moto uses most of the time. I think they're great. I love that you can have the display up on your handlebars and show all kinds of different engine parameters. But my local shop is most familiar with the TTS Master Tune. So I wanted a healthy, good, strong tune, and I felt like that was the best way to go is to go with what they're comfortable with. So that's why I ended up going with that. Fluids. As far as primary, transmission, and engine oil, I kind of had an interesting time figuring out what I should be putting in this thing. I know we should be putting in break-in oil because of the new pistons and cylinders. Fuel Moto recommended something high in zinc, which trying to find what oil manufacturers say is in their oil is just about impossible. So I ended up going with what Fuel Moto recommended, which is this Kendall GT1 competition oil. This has a lot of zinc in it. It's still 20W50. It's what's meant to be in there. It's mineral oil. So that's what they recommended. I figured they do these things all day long. If they think that's a decent oil, I think it's going to be all right for me. After that, I'll probably plan on going back to AMSOIL. I got some Blackstone Laboratories reports back from my last oil change with the AMSOIL, and then they said it's lower wear than they normally see on those engines. So I think it's a good bet. I think I was getting a good product with AMSOIL, so I'm going to put that back in there. Fuel Moto also recommended in the primary case to run mineral oil, not a synthetic, just because of going with extra performance needs as much clamping force as it can get. So I'm going with Bel-Ray oil in there, just their V-twin primary oil. And then I'm going to put AMSOIL in the transmission. I felt like that worked pretty good for me last time, so I'm just going to keep that going. So that's kind of the parts list. I'll keep you guys up to date on what's going on in the shop. I've got a few pictures from them, and they're keeping me updated down there. I'm going to be getting in the rest of the parts this week at some point, and then this thing should be going back together real quick, and I'll be able to show you guys. The 465 cam from S&S has a few videos I found online. Nothing really great quality. It was kind of hard to tell the sound. You know, everybody's got different exhausts, so you never really know what it's going to sound like. I couldn't find anybody with a 124 with a 465 cam. So I'm really excited to hear what this bike sounds like. I really like the 465 cam sound in stock setup, but with the 124s, I'm sure it's going to sound really good. So I'm excited to share that with you guys. I'll share you the dyno numbers and kind of what I'm getting, and then just rideability and how fun it is. And is it hard to ride? Am I going to be hard to keep tires on this thing? What's going to happen with it? So I can't wait to show you guys. I hope this list gets you guys a little excited like it is me. And I'll let you know what I think of all these products and kind of how it comes together. And we'll do some test rides together. So I'll keep you updated, and I'll see you on the next video.